Reading through the Bible in 1 year, June 18th, Deuteronomy 23, Psalms 112 through 113, Isaiah 50, and Revelation chapter 20. No one who is emasculated or has his male organ cut off shall enter the assembly of Yahweh. Now, what's this about? I'm going to read the notes on this because this part's important. It's not saying that anybody who has some sort of disfigurement is allowed to worship God. If you're disfigured in some way, or if there's been some sort of something happening. Let me read the note. This phrase possibly refers to the worshiping community gathered before the presence of God rather than to Israel's population as a whole. It may, however, have a much narrower connotation, since apart from the present context, it appears only in Micah 2:5. The similar expression, assembly of God, it comes in Nehemiah 13:1, at the start of a passage that focuses on the inappropriate provision of accommodation within the temple courts for Tobiah the Ammonite. The Hebrew word for assembly, kahal, is usually rendered ecclesia in the Septuagint. This is also the term used in the Greek New Testament for church. Now, reading from the ESV Study Bible, generally the term used in Deuteronomy to refer to Israel gathered at Horeb Sinai, this assembly. In this chapter, it anticipates Israel's Israel gathered in the land at worship. Quote, testicles are crushed. That's the note being given. This probably refers to men made eunuchs in the context of pagan worship and cut off. In Galatians 5:12, quote, emasculate themselves, Paul uses the same verb as appears in the Greek translation of Deuteronomy, perhaps to imply that his opponents are acting like pagans. By this action, the ancient Israelites would disqualify themselves from entry into the assembly. Let's keep going. Verse 2. No one of illegitimate birth shall enter the assembly of Yahweh, even to the 10th generation. None of his seed shall enter the assembly of Yahweh. No Ammonite or Moabite shall enter the assembly of Yahweh, even to the 10th generation. None of their seed shall ever enter the assembly of Yahweh, because they did not meet with you with food or water on the way when you came out of Egypt, and because they hired against you Balaam, the son of Beor, from Pethor of Mesopotamia, to curse you. Nevertheless, Yahweh your God was not willing to listen to Balaam, but Yahweh your God turned the curse into a blessing for you, because Yahweh your God loves you. You shall never seek their peace or their prosperity all your days. You shall not abhor an Edomite, for he is your brother. You shall not abhor an Egyptian, for you are a sojourner in his land. The sons of the 3rd generation who are born to them may enter the assembly of Yahweh. When you go out as an army against your enemies, you shall keep yourselves from every evil thing. If there is among you a man who is unclean because of nocturnal emission, then he must go outside the camp. He may not re-enter the camp, but it shall be when evening approaches, that he shall bathe himself with water, and at sundown he may re-enter the camp. He shall also have a place outside the camp and go there, and you shall have a spade among your tools, and it shall be when you sit down outside, you shall dig with it, and shall turn to cover up your excrement. Since Yahweh your God walks in the midst of your camp to deliver you, and to give your enemies over to you, therefore you must be holy, and he must not see anything indecent among you, or he will turn away from you. You shall not hand over to his master a slave who has escaped from his master to you. He shall live with you in your midst, in the place which he shall choose in one of your gates of the towns where it pleases him. You shall not mistreat him. None of the daughters of Israel shall be a cult prostitute, nor shall any of the sons of Israel be a cult prostitute. You shall not bring the hire of a harlot or the wages of a dog into the house of Yahweh your God, or any votive offering. for both these are an abomination to Yahweh your God. You shall not charge interest to your brother, interest on money, food, or anything that may be loaned at interest. You may charge interest to a foreigner, but to your brother you shall not charge interest, so that Yahweh your God may bless you in all that you send forth your hand to do in the land which you are about to enter to possess. When you make a vow to Yahweh your God, you shall not delay to pay it, for Yahweh your God will surely require it of you, and it will be a sin in you. However, if you refrain from vowing, it will not be a sin. It will not be a sin in you. You shall be careful and do what goes out from your lips, just as you have voluntarily vowed to Yahweh your God, that which you spoke with your mouth. When you enter into your neighbor's vineyard, then you may eat grapes until you are fully satisfied, but you shall not put any into your basket. Whenever you enter your neighbor's standing grain, you may pluck the heads with your hand, but you shall not wield a sickle in your neighbor's standing grain. Now, Psalms 112 through 113. How blessed is the man who fears Yahweh, who greatly delights in his commandments. His seed will be mighty on the earth. The generation of the upright will be blessed. Wealth and riches are in his house, and his righteousness stands forever. Light arises in the darkness for the upright. He is gracious and compassionate and righteous. It is well with the man who is gracious and lends, who sustains his works with justice, for he will never be shaken. The righteous will be remembered forever. He will not fear an evil report. His heart is set, trusting in Yahweh. His heart is upheld, he will not fear, until he looks in triumph on his adversaries. He has given freely to the needy. His righteousness stands forever. His horn will be raised in glory. The wicked will see it and be vexed, and he will gnash his teeth and melt away. The desire of the wicked will perish. Psalm 113. Praise Yah. Praise, O slaves of Yahweh. Praise the name of Yahweh. May the name of Yahweh be blessed from now until forever, from the rising of the sun to its setting. The name of Yahweh is to be praised. Yahweh is high above all nations. His glory is above the heavens. Who is like Yahweh, our God, the one who sits on high, the one who brings himself low to see the things in heaven and on the earth, who raises the poor from the dust and lifts high the needy from the ash heap, to make them sit with the nobles of his people. He makes the barren woman of the house sit as a glad mother of children. Praise Yah. Now Isaiah chapter 50. Thus says Yahweh, where is the certificate of divorce by which I have sent your mother away? Or to which of my creditors did I sell you? Behold, you were sold for your iniquities, and for your transgressions your mother was sent away. Why was there no man when I came? When I called, why was there none to answer? Is my hand so short that it cannot ransom? Or have I no power to deliver? Behold, I dry up the sea with my rebuke. I make the rivers a vast wilderness. Their fish stink for lack of water and die of thirst. I clothe the heavens with blackness and make sackcloth their covering. Lord Yahweh has given me the tongue of disciples, that I may know how to sustain the weary one with a word. He awakens me morning by morning. He awakens my ear to learn as a disciple. Lord Yahweh has opened my ear, and I did not rebel, nor did I turn back. I gave my back to those who strike me, and my cheeks to those who pluck out the beard. I did not hide my face from dishonor and spitting. Even now, Lord Yahweh helps me. Therefore, I am not dishonored. Therefore, I have set my face like flint, and I know that I will not be ashamed. He who vindicates me is near. Who will contend with me? Let us stand up to each other. Who has a judgment against me? Let him approach me. Behold, Lord Yahweh helps me. Who is he who condemns me? Behold, they will all wear out like a garment. The moth will eat them. Who is among you that fears Yahweh? That listens to the voice of his servant, that walks in darkness and has no light. Let him trust in the name of Yahweh and rely on his God. Behold, all you who kindle a fire, who gird yourselves with firebrands, walk in the light of your fire. And among the brands you have set ablaze, this you will have from my hand. You will lie down in torment. Now Revelation chapter 20. Again, this is a prophetic book, so there are a lot of things that are hard to follow and hard to understand. We're about to go over a section here on the term 1,000 years. This is one where people tend to park and determine their theology based on this, based on the millennial reign that is to come. Now, if you've been reading through the Bible with me, or if you've read through it before, no doubt you've seen you've seen the term 1,000 listed a bunch of times. Typically, as we've seen here, if it's not here yet, but as we've seen in reading through numbers, etc., when we're counting large numbers of people, we get a number with the term 1,000. So it's, there were 12,000 of this tribe, and 12,000 of that tribe, and 15,000 of this one, and 7,000 of this one. We see those numbers quite a bit. And when we see those numbers, they're most likely there weren't exactly 7,000 people inside of one group. For the most part, it tells us the actual number of the people who were there. And again, remember that all of those counted are they are only those from 20 years old and upward to 60 years old, those who could go out to war. Those are the numbers being given. They don't count all of the women, children, and everybody else. So when we see 1,000 being used as just 1,000 of something, it typically does not speak of literally 1,000 exact, very specific things, or even years, or dates, or what have you. It refers instead to a large number. For instance, the psalm that states that the Lord owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. That is parked directly in a section of text that's revealing to us the full breadth of God's kingdom, of that over which he has sovereign control, because he owns all of it, which comes shortly after. Actually, right after that, it says that he owns all the hills. He owns all the hills and all the cattle on them, not just 1,000 distinct hills that exist on the world, and God only owns those cattle. He owns all of it. He's created all of it, and at a time in the future, he will take it away, which he can do. We are his creatures. We were created by him for his glory. So when we see the term 1,000 shown here, it doesn't mean specifically on Tuesday, April 24th of the year 2025 to Tuesday, April 24th of 3025 at exactly 4:27 p.m. in the Eastern Standard Time. that will be the exact reign of what's going to happen. What it means instead is that there is a large number of years. For a long time this will happen. At least that's what I believe as an amillennial, as a person who believes in amillennial eschatology. There is a large note right here that talks about, quote, the interlude, the 1,000 years of the dragon's binding and the martyr's reign. It also discusses the other millennial views. I would strongly recommend reading this section. I'm scrolling up a little bit so you can see the rest of that. But that said, let's go ahead and just begin the reading for today. Verse 1. Then I saw an angel coming down from heaven, having the key of the abyss and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold of the dragon, that serpent of old, who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. And he threw him into the abyss and shut it and sealed it over him, so that he would not deceive the nations any longer until the 1,000 years were finished. After these things, he must be released for a short time. How long is that short time? It doesn't say. Is it another 1,000 years? Is it another 1,000 minutes? We don't know. Verse 4. Then I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given to them. And I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded because of their witness of Jesus, and because of the word of God, and who also had not worshipped the beast or his image, and had not received the mark on their forehead and on their hand. And they came to life and reigned with Christ for 1,000 years. And the rest of the dead did not come to life until the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection. Blessed and holy is the one who has a part in the first resurrection. Over these, the second death has no authority, but they will be priests of God and of Christ, and will reign with him for 1,000 years. When the 1,000 years are finished, Satan will be released from his prison, and he will come out to deceive the nations which are in the four corners of the earth. Again, north, south, east, and west. Gog and Magog, to gather them together for the war. The number of them is like the sand of the seashore. And they came up on the broad plain of the earth, and surrounded the camp of the saints and the beloved city, and fire came down from heaven and devoured them. And the devil who deceived them was thrown into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are also. And they will be tormented day and night forever and ever. Then I saw a great white throne and him who sits upon it, from whose presence the heaven and earth fled away, and no place was found for them. Then I saw the dead, and the great and the small, standing before the throne, and books were opened. And another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged from the things which were written in the books according to their deeds. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and Hades gave up the dead which were in them. I want to make sure we don't lose any notes here. Okay, rereading verse 13 here. Then the sea and the dead gave up, the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and Hades gave up the dead which were in them, and they were judged, every one of them according to their deeds. Then death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. This is the second death, the lake of fire. And if anyone's name was not found written in the book of life, he was thrown into the lake of fire. That's it for today. That is all of the text and also all of the notes. God willing, we'll be back tomorrow. Behold, the word of the Lord.